Folks, Mike Schramke with Larry Stove Sand Equipment. This is an orientation video for new owners of a Kioti CK series. You bought a Kioti CK10 or CK20 series, 2610, 2620, 3510, 3520, 4010, 4020, regular or SE. This is a long video. It's a get acquainted with the machine, how to operate it, just a general orientation of your new Kioti tractor. Congratulations and welcome to the pack. You bought a heck of a nice machine. If you bought the tractor from us, you got a goodie bag, kind of a backpack type thing. And in it are, I gotta admit, whatever seems to be fun at the time when we order stuff. Right now, we're giving away honeybee mix seeds, you know, with the Larry Stove Sand logo. Plant those, that's kind of fun. Keychains, a hat, and whatever is in your bag may be different because we may have other fun stuff to have given away. Draw pin, drawbar pin, of course, keys, owner's manuals, and the owner's manuals are the most important thing. If if the main thing that you take from this video is to become familiar with your owner's manual, I will have succeeded. These are very important. It's not like the owner's manual on a new television that all you want to do is figure out how to hook it up to your cable box and make it go. This is important. It has a lot of things in it. It has everything in it. I dare say that any question that you come up with is addressed in the owner's manual. And if it's not, or if you can't find it, of course, just call us. But right on the opening cover of the tractor owner's manual, it has the initial 50-hour service that's needed, a daily check, and then the services that are needed every 100, 200, 250, 400, 800, or 1,000 hours. And the book is extensive, and it might seem overwhelming, intimidating, but it's really not. It's easy to follow, a lot of good pictures, and I urge you, please, become familiar with the owner's manual. The tractor's front loader also has an owner's manual, and if you bought a backhoe or a mid-mount mower on your Kioti tractor, they have owner's manuals as well. Any implements that have moving parts, like a rotary cutter, tiller, also have owner's manuals as well. The warranty on your CK series tractor is in two parts. The first part is the bumper-to-bumper warranty. For 2 years with unlimited hours, and so no limit on hours, it is covered if anything breaks. Not if you break it, but if anything breaks. And so if I always tell people, if the headlight goes out or the horn doesn't blow for 2 years, that is covered. As is, everything else on the tractor. The loader has a 1-year warranty. The backhoe has a 1-year warranty. The mid-mount mower has a 1-year warranty. But the tractor itself, 2 years with no limit on hours, bumper to bumper, if it had bumpers. After that, it's followed up with an additional 4 years on the powertrain, catastrophic illness. So the engine, transmission, and drive axles, which of course include the 4-wheel drive. And that warranty covers anything that is internal to the engine. So a piston is under warranty and a crankshaft is under warranty. An alternator is not. So anything engine in, not bolted to the engine, is covered for an additional 4 years. So a total of 6 years, again with no limit on hours. Transportation of your tractor to the dealership is not covered. And if you need to bring the tractor to us, there will be a charge depending on how far it is transported. It's not much, it's not a moneymaker for us. We just can't, our trucks are $100,000 a piece. And our drivers, they get paid as well. So What I'd like to do is break from this to the showroom. I've got a couple of CKs out there, and we'll start out there and we'll go over the machines. So again, congratulations, happy day. The last thing most folks want to sit through is a safety dissertation, and I'm not going to do that. The important points are in the owner's manual, but I am going to point out a couple that I think should be done every day. Safety and to make sure you have a smooth experience using your tractor. Before you get on the tractor, do a walk around. Walk around the machine. Look at the paint marks that we've put on the lugs, on the lug bolts, on the wheels, and the ones that we've put on the loader mounts against the frame. Those are there for a reason. If the lines line up, they haven't loosened. A tractor vibrates, a tractor has a lot of torque, things loosen, and you don't want a wheel to loosen or a loader to loosen above all else. That's why we hit them with a paint pen, and you need to check that every day. Go around to the back of the machine and make sure that the turnbuckles on the 3-point are tight, that the top link turnbuckle is tight. Look for oil or fuel that accumulated under the tractor. It doesn't leak today, but it'll leak sometime. It might be 25 years from now. But leaks are not good, and leaks should be attended to as they happen. So look for leaks. If you're using a implement that's driven by a PTO shaft, it's very important. I'm going to turn the camera. I want to show you something. It's very important to consider what you're wearing and for the length of your hair for some guys and most women. The PTO shaft spins at an incredibly high rate of speed, and there will be times that you'll be off the machine working with an implement that is in motion, that is spinning. For example, post hole digger. You're standing behind the tractor making the 3-point and the post hole digger go up and down. It's a lot of spinning stuff. You do not want sleeves to get caught in there, hair to get caught in there. Very bad day. What implement makers nowadays do on implements like this is they put this plastic sleeve over the length of the PTO shaft. It has like bell shapes at both ends, and it's pretty well protected. There'd be no reason somebody would stick their, is there a reason? I would hope there's no reason somebody would stick their hand all the way in there, but you can touch metal. But that the idea is not to be able to touch anything that's spinning. In fact, the plastic is held in place with a couple of chains so that even that doesn't spin. Make sure that all of that is in good shape. And everything needs to be tight. You're about to throw a whole lot of torque at a machine that has a whole lot of potential to do some damage. Good damage or bad damage? Good damage would be this rotary cutter going through a field and pulverizing everything in its path. Bad damage is anything other than that. So check it out. Now this is super important. When you have the loader up for any reason, when you're getting under the hood, anything that you're doing that requires you to be under the loader, you've got to keep the loader braced. There is a lock inside the cab or in the open station that controls a lockout for the loader, but it's not to be relied on. There's only one way to do it, and that is to put a steel brace, just a piece of angle iron that's cut to size, in the piston of the extended loader, and then zip tie it so it doesn't fall out. That really is the only way to safely walk under a loader. Give you a little demonstration. Now there's nobody around. If somebody would walk by and inadvertently hit the loader control, or if you were working on the tractor and there was a hydraulic leak or something like that, this is how fast it comes down, and that would be bad to be under that. Got to do that. You still haven't gotten on the tractor because you've done the walk around, you've looked for any obvious signs. Now it's time to look a little bit closer. If you've never owned a tractor before, you'll think this is not possible or not probable, but vermin infestation under the hood of a tractor will happen. For whatever reason, somebody thought was a good idea. The electrical wires used in modern machinery, including tractors, are coated in an insulator that is soy-based. And apparently it tastes like peanut butter to rats, mice, squirrels, whatever. They will get in here, they will chew, and when that happens, it can cause a spark. We have at least one person a year that has a engine fire due to vermin, and it's usually not covered under insurance. So look around. It's not hard to do, and it'll be very obvious. The other thing is to make sure that all of your coolers and air conditioner cooler, hydrostat cooler, radiator, that it's all free of debris. Tractors, unlike cars, can't go at 70 miles an hour and get any air cooling. So these must have pass-through air that goes through the radiator and all the cooling fins and everything like that. So it needs to be clean. They all have screens that easily pull out. And what you can do first off is take a leaf blower and blow it kind of at an angle in to out. And you can do the same thing with a garden hose, not a pressure washer hose, but a garden hose from the inside of the engine compartment through the radiator and make the dirt come out. Dust and dirt when you're mowing or tilling or doing whatever, the cloud of dust that you have, well, the humidity will cause it to be sucked in and dried against the fins, and it happens quickly, and the tractor will get hot. So under the hood, make sure that there's you didn't make any friends over the weekend, and make sure everything is clean. If you're using a post hole digger, you're going to ground engage. Do you need to call 811, that number that comes out and checks your property, make sure there's no gas lines, electric lines, whatever. If you're going to break ground and it's not property that you're absolutely positively sure what's out there, call 811. It doesn't cost anything. And use your seatbelt in conjunction with the roll bar when you're out using the tractor, especially on hills, especially doing loader work. That's a rollover is not good, but it's not usually catastrophic if you're strapped in and your roll bar is up. So do that. Spend a minute talking about expectations, what you need your tractor to do and what your tractor will do. And a lot of this is, of course, physics, but a lot of it is common sense too. Even the smallest tractor can do the biggest job. It just takes longer. If you are going to use a 4-foot rotary cutter on a 20-acre field, it'll definitely do it. It'll also take a while. A bigger tractor would cut it faster. Now, they both do the job. So if you're looking at a job that's big for your tractor, take your time and know that the job will get done. It'll just take a little bit longer. And be glad that you have a tractor, whatever size you got. You're always going to have a job that is, 1 or 2 steps above what you would have bought a tractor for if you were doing that same thing every day. So on the occasions that you have a very big job for your tractor, just be patient, let it do its job within its limitations, and it sure beats a wheelbarrow and a mule. One thing that's important in almost any application is to have enough ballast on the rear end of the tractor, and the front end for that matter, to safely maneuver the tractor. Again, everything we talk about in safety is to prevent rollover. And if you're doing loader work, it's very important to have rear ballast. A lot of you probably had the tires filled by us or by your dealer if you didn't buy the tractor from me. We use rim guard, very heavy. It's 11 pounds a gallon. And on a CK like you bought, it adds about 640 pounds to the back of the tractor. And in fact, you could even do more than that if you're concerned about maneuvering a tractor, doing some loader work on some uneven ground, and you want to take it a next level up just this once. Put a box scraper or a rotary cutter on the back. Anything you put on the back of the tractor will help the stability and safety while you're doing loader work. Whatever the loader of the tractor you bought, in this case of a CK, the loader capacity is 1,835 pounds. Now, that doesn't mean at 1,836 pounds the tractor brakes. At 1,836, the rear end comes off the ground. Anything that you can do to mitigate that is good. And those numbers change completely if you use pallet forks or grapples, anything that reaches out from the end of the loader, those numbers go down significantly. So ballast is your friend. Even if you live on the flattest earth possible, you're in coastal Florida where there's no hills. There will be hills. At some point you will have the tractor on a hill, and always remember, safety dictates that the tractor be allowed to operate up and down, up the hill, down the hill, absolutely whenever possible. There will be times that you have to do some side to side, and that's where you really need to be careful. The loader needs to be as close to the ground as possible. The bucket needs to be as close to the ground as possible, without digging into the ground. And you need to make sure that you're going low and slow if you have to go side to side. When you're going up and down, that's a good time to use four-wheel drive. Four-wheel drive on the uptake will help you pull yourself uphill. That makes sense. Downhill, it locks all four wheels together at the same speed, so there's a much less chance of a tractor runaway. These old tractors, if they were on a hill, all of a sudden they could run away, and that's really not a thing anymore. But putting it in four-wheel drive will certainly help prevent that. We mentioned four-wheel drive. Now's the time to talk about when to use four-wheel drive. The tractor that you bought is a four-wheel drive, and like most trucks, for example, it's primarily a rear-wheel drive, and it has a front-wheel drive assist to use when necessary. And that's the key, use when necessary. Some folks leave the tractor in four-wheel drive in perpetuity, and that does a couple of things. Anytime that you're on hard surface and you're turning the wheels, and the front wheels are being asked to turn at the same speed as the rear wheels when going around in a circle, the physics won't allow that. They can't go, the two front wheels cannot go at the same speed as each other when you're going around a turn, and that's why you'll get that jerking thing. You've seen it in pickup trucks, and it's the same thing. So four-wheel drive should not be used on hard pavement. It really shouldn't be used on hard ground. If you're out mowing a pasture and there's no reason to use four-wheel drive, don't use four-wheel drive. What it will do is it'll wear out your tires prematurely. That's at a minimum, and that's going to happen. The worst thing that can happen is that the front axle will become damaged. And tractor's under warranty, but someday it won't be, and there's just no reason. It's mean to the tractor. Use four-wheel drive every time you need it, and don't use four-wheel drive when you don't need it. Tractor will last a lot longer, and you'll be happier. I think there's a basic amount of stuff that you should have ready at all times when you own a tractor, and I'd like to go through a few things that I keep that I recommend. First off, paint pens. A new tractor with new fluids has dipsticks that are bright and shiny, and oil, hydraulic oil, motor oil, that is very clear. And I can tell you that it's really hard to see anything on the dipstick. So what I do is I paint them. I painted one side here black and one side white. But you could see the argent color of the steel, and imagine the fluid on there. It'd be darn hard to see. So any color that you have, paint your dipsticks. You'll appreciate it. Also, any implements that you have that have shear pins as protection on the device, you'll need to take some shear pins with you. A shear pin is, there's two ways to protect the implement in case you hit something huge and nasty, and you know, physics being what they are, something has to give before the drive shaft snaps, or you break the tractor, or you break the implement. One way is to have a slip clutch, and usually larger implements and sometimes more expensive implements will actually have a spring clutch on the drive shaft that'll bounce in and out of gear if you hit something nasty, and that's fine. Everything else has a shear pin. Now this looks a lot like a bolt and a nut. It is not. And if you ever break a shear pin, when you break a shear pin, because you will, with some regularity, you'll not want to put a bolt in there, because this is designed to snap at a predetermined tensile strength, I guess, and a bolt will not. So a bolt really doesn't offer any protection. You might as well, I don't know, might as well not have anything in there. Of course, that wouldn't work either. But a shear pin, these don't cost hardly anything. You can get them at Tractor Supply or from us or whatever. They're a couple bucks a piece. Have several of these ready to make a repair in the field instead of having the tractor, 20 miles away from your home or your barn. That's not the time to need a shear pin. My favorite tool in the world, a spud wrench, also known as a construction wrench. I don't know why it's called either, but I do know that I like them. Unlike most adjustable wrenches, what makes this unique is the handle end is tapered to a fine point. And when you're trying to hook up an implement and you're trying to get the holes to line up between the implement and the 3-point hitch, all you got to be is close, because you could stick this in there and wiggle it around and it'll draw the two together. So, and you'll use this end all the time too. So a spud wrench, very important kit. Everybody needs at all times a BFH. You will need this. It'll help you drive pins in, who knows what. But for stuff that's not precise work, you will need to carry a BFH. What else do I have here? Oh, okay. A grease gun. And it seems funny that I would carry a grease gun, but I do. And I'll tell you why. The chassis on the tractor, for the most part, is about every 50 hours. Pardon me. Some people would only need to do that, gosh, once or twice a year if you don't put a lot of hours on. But I'll tell you what takes a lot of grease is the loader and the backhoe, if you have a backhoe. These are to be greased. Every one of these Zerks, every one of them, every 10 hours. I also tell people, maybe if you're not keeping a clock on it, maybe every time you put fuel in it, it will need grease. I strongly recommend spending the money for a power grease gun. Any brand will do, whatever you happen to have batteries for. I've got some Milwaukee stuff, so I bought a Milwaukee because I didn't have to buy more batteries. And the reason I say a power, for one, it has a whole bunch of grease points. And the other is the little guys are kind of hard to get to. There you go. Now, another thing, I paid extra for this I don't know, this coupler on the end. It's made by a company called Lock and Lube, and it's really wonderful. Sometimes if your grease zerks are getting a little dirty, they're hard to get on, and a lot of times the machining is so precise that they're really hard to get off. This thing does neither. It has jaws that reach in and grab and clamp and put the grease in, and then to release it you just do that. They're not cheap. I'm thinking they're $30-something, but they're wonderful. I'd say every technician worth his salt certainly has one of those. The other thing I carry is a good quality lubricant that's not grease, but it's not, you know, 3-in-1 oil either. This is WD-40 Gel Lube. White lithium grease is great too. There's a lot of places on the tractor that don't have grease zerks that need to be lubricated or need to be protected from rust. For example, every once in a while, hit the inside pistons of the loader arms. They're not painted, they're just steel, and if they were lubricated, even if you let the tractor sit over the winter or something, they won't rust. The other thing is the turnbuckles on the top link or the lower stabilizers. Anything with a turnbuckle, anything that you know, has metal moving. I also hit spring looking things like on the quick release for the bucket. I also use a rag and I wipe the rubber of the hydraulic hoses to keep them supple. So that's a good thing to do. And you know what? You can also just use on the pistons and the hydraulic lines, you can also just use motor oil in a rag and just to keep them lubricated, keep them wet, you know, keep them from drying out. And another thing is a ample supply of fluids. Keep motor oil on hand, but most especially keep hydraulic fluid on hand. The tractor will need hydraulic fluid added to it quite regularly, especially if you're connecting and disconnecting hydraulic lines. For example, on a backhoe or a third function valve for a grapple. Anything like that, every time that you couple and uncouple, you'll lose a little bit of oil. So keep a 5-gallon container of universal tractor fluid, UTF. You don't have to use Kioti brand or any brand from the manufacturer, well, that I sell, TYM or Kioti. I don't know about other companies, but a premium quality universal tractor fluid needs to be on hand. This is common sense, but if you're working by yourself, have a cell phone at hand. Don't leave it in the truck. If something happens, if you're in a situation that you are incapacitated and need to call for help, have a cell phone. Have a yellow fuel can. Don't ever put diesel fuel in anything other than a plastic can that is yellow. Yellow signifies diesel, and hopefully nobody will dump the diesel into their gasoline mower, and hopefully nobody will dump gasoline into a diesel engine. That's really bad. It happens, and anything you can do to help make that not happen. The main thing being use yellow cans. Here's one that's worthy of consideration, especially as your machine ages. Carry a good, efficient way to jumpstart the tractor. If it's been left in the barn over the winter, or if the battery's getting 2-3 years old, you know, these new battery jumpers are this big. I own one, and you'd think, my goodness, what could that? Well, they can, and they can jumpstart a whole bunch of times. But sometimes you can't get your truck with cables near the tractor, so carry something to jumpstart. And this isn't really what to carry, but if I don't say this, I'll forget. Anytime that you're going to use a quick coupler and connect or disconnect a hydraulic line, the loader, backhoe, grapple, any device, a rotary cutter that's a flex wing, any device that has couplers on it, you need to not fight the pressure, you know, the 3,000 PSI that the system is charged at. If I tried to disconnect some lines right now, I probably would struggle just trying to get this to draw back. And that's because not everything has settled. So if I was going to take this loader off, for example, I would make sure that the 3-point system is all the way down, check. And then the loader, I would roll it around. See, it moved ever so slightly, just that much. Now, there it goes a little more. So keep wiggling the loader until there's no more pressure. There. Now, the system is not charged, and it will easily connect or disconnect. That's also the way you need to check the hydraulic fluid in the tractor. The tractor, when you check the hydraulic fluid dipstick, needs to be, the engine needs to be off. It needs to have settled for a few minutes, and you need to do what I just did. Make sure the 3 points all the way down, roll the loader control around, discharge everything back into the reservoir, the sump, before you check it, or else it'll be wrong. A couple of things about maintenance. I showed you the need to lubricate the grease fittings often, and no kidding, every 10 hours on the loader and backhoe, every 50 hours on everything else. They're all listed, the grease points are all listed in the owner's manuals. You'll need to refer to that. Let's talk about consumables. Consumables are the things that, maintenance items, oil and filters. The manufacturer does not require you to use Kioti branded lubricants or filters to keep your machine in warranty. Obviously, we sell Kioti products, and they don't cost any more than they would if you went to AutoZone and bought a quality oil or a Donaldson air filter, you know, things like that. We're no higher, but sometimes people just can't get to the dealership and they'd rather, you know, shop closer to home or whatever. It's okay, and it's not required under warranty to use Kioti branded consumable products. In the owner's manual, you'll find the specifications that are required, and it's mostly common sense. Motor oil needs to be of a high grade with a diesel certification. This 80-90 weight gear oil, which goes in the front axle, has a viscosity rating and things like that, and everything is listed in the owner's manual. And as long as you use compatible products, in fact, some of the filters and fluids are in the owner's manual with competitors. You know, it'll tell you that Mobile whatever motor oil is a good option instead of Kioti lube if that's what you want to do, and that's fine. Common sense dictates that you should keep your receipts. If you don't have the dealership service the machine, the dealership will have all the records, and in the event of a catastrophic, meltdown, if an engine failed, and in 5 years or whatever, and if you've had it maintained at the dealership, of course there'll be records, that you did everything on time, and it's not your fault. And you can have the same protection if you keep all the receipts. It's not required, but if you buy motor oil, if you buy gear oil, universal tractor fluid, whenever you make that purchase, the receipt will have a date on it, the filters will have a date on it, and go ahead and keep them. Scroll it down, scroll down the hours on it, and just keep the receipts. It's not required, but it makes sense to me. The first maintenance will be due at 50 hours because the machine's new. You won't be servicing it every 50 hours, only the first time, and that's because it's new. And you get a chance if there was any errant shavings from the engine casting process, things like that. It'll take a change of motor oil and a motor oil filter. The tractor is a 3-cylinder engine. It holds 6 quarts, 1.5 gallons of motor oil. And for your CK tractor, the easy way to remember that is it's a 3-cylinder engine, 2 quarts per cylinder. So 2 times 3 is 6, 6 quarts, 1.5 gallons. That needs to be changed at 50 hours. The hydraulic filters need to be changed at 50 hours. Not the hydraulic fluid, just the filters. So when you change the filters, you'll be under the tractor and you'll say, well, I'm going to lose some fluid. Yes, you will. So have a catch pan to get it, do it quickly, and refill with fresh fluid the amount that you lost that came out. That's to be expected, and it's perfectly normal. And check your air filter with routine regularity. The air filters you'll find will last a very long time. All you have to do is inspect it. You can bang them on the tire to get some of the debris out. You can use compressed air at a low setting, using the nozzle from the inside of the filter out, and you can clean it a few times, and you'll find that you can get a long service life out of an air filter if you keep it clean, and you can do that yourself. But I want you to check the owner's manual for the scheduled service, but that's what you need to do at 50 hours. I shut the camera off and then thought of something else. This happens a lot. When it comes to grease for your grease gun, consider using a colored grease. Of course, they're all colored. None of them are invisible, but instead of black. This is red, but any color other than black, if you can, because as the tractor gets dirty, the grease gets dirty. But red will show up. So when you're looking at the seals and you're looking at, you know, how much grease is in and around it, it's nice to have a easily identified color. If you're really fancy, next time you'll buy green, and then the time after that you'll buy purple. You know, keep the colors in your grease gun. Finally, time to talk about the starting sequence. When you mount the tractor, if your tractor has mirrors, the mirrors are not a good grab handle. They're not made for that. Use the stirrup, the handle here, or the steering wheel, and mount up. First thing you'll notice, hopefully, is that the seat compresses. It's a weight adjustable suspension seat, and the seat must be compressed in order to start the tractor. So if my big butt jumps off this and my wife jumps on, she may not be heavy enough to compress it where I had it. So she may need to adjust the, and she should anyway for comfort, she may need to adjust the suspension amount, which is right here. This would loosen it up for her, tighten it up for me. So the seat must be compressed. The range selector, low, medium, and high, must be in one of the two neutral positions, which this one is at the moment. The parking brake or your foot on the brake must do that. And if your tractor has a clutch, and the only one that doesn't have a clutch would be an SE hydrostat. If it has a clutch, it must be compressed. Now here's a different starting sequence depending on which engine you have. If you have a CK2610 or CK2620, it does not have a common rail direct injected engine. It has a mechanical injected engine, the same type diesel technology that's been used for decades, and it works great. Since it's under 25 horsepower, in fact, they technically put it at like 24.5, but you know, that's where they got it rated at. The government does not require emission systems, and so it doesn't have the kind of fuel injection, among other things, that the 35 and the 40 horsepower engines do. So the reason I bring all this up, if you're starting from a cold engine, you will turn the key on the 2610, 2620 and light the glow plug, or heat the glow plug for a moment, and that light right there, and when it goes out, the tractor will start. Also, when you start a CK2610, CK2620, it'll start with a puff of smoke, it'll be noisy, and then it'll simmer down. This is completely normal, and this is how mechanical fuel injection works on a diesel engine, so don't be alarmed when you see a puff of smoke. And then let the engine run for at least a brief period before you put it to work. The owner's manual actually says 3 to 4 minutes, and in cold weather, it's even longer than that. And there's a couple of reasons, and it's as much to do with the hydraulic system, really, in fact, more so than the engine itself. The hydraulic system, especially when it's cold, will be very thick. The viscosity of the oil that controls everything on this tractor will be thick, and it'll be hard to raise the loader. You'll notice that it goes up very slowly or it jerks. And if it's a hydrostat like this one, it'll be a little hesitant to get going, and that is because the oil is so thick. So let the tractor warm for at least a few brief moments when it's normal heat outside. If it's 70, 80, 90, 100 degrees, let it run for a minute or so. And when it's cold, you'll want to start it and let it run for, if it's super cold, for those of you up north and stuff, 6, 7, 10 minutes, it'll allow everything to heat up, including the hydraulic system. Now, I'd like to show you starting sequence on a CK3510, CK3520, CK4010, CK4020. In other words, the version of the CK tractor with 35 or 40 horsepower. This CK4020 cab SE, the SE hydrostat, as I said, does not have a clutch, so that's one thing you won't be depressing because it doesn't have one. And you'll notice the nature of the beast on the engine design on these. You will rarely, if ever, need to preheat the glow plugs. It starts as easier really, than any gasoline engine. Again, the range selector must be in neutral, foot on the brake or the parking brake engaged. The seat has compressed, and it'll just start right up with no preheating. There's also no rough idle moment. It's very smooth. So after you've started it, let it run for a moment or two, or many moments if it's very, very cold. It's time to proceed. Throttle up, then go. The tractor, especially in a hydrostat, runs on hydraulic fluid, and hydraulic fluid is pumped by a hydraulic pump, which is run by the engine and engine RPMs. Try to avoid loping the tractor along. These are made to run open, and 2,400 RPMs, I think that's the PTO rated speed on this one, and that's about right. Run the thing at 2,000 or better RPMs. If you're using the PTO, certainly run it at the indicated mark, which is 2,400. But diesel engines, besides operating their hydraulic system via pump, via RPMs, is also, diesels cool themselves that way. All of the fluid is being pumped through, the hydraulic fluid and the motor oil is being pumped through coolers, and those coolers need RPMs and speed to cycle the fluid as well as the coolant, the engine coolant. So try hard to avoid, and it might be counterintuitive to what you're used to on an old tractor or Grandpa's old Poppin' John Deere Model 2, but they're made to run open. Kind of consider it like this: if you were going to cut grass with a push mower, you wouldn't try to cut grass at a low RPM because that's not what it's designed for. The push mower with its little gasoline engine, once you started, it's to rev up to 3,600 RPMs, and that's the operating range of a small gasoline engine like that. And you wouldn't cut grass at anything other than full open. And there's no difference here. The engine is made to run open, and about 2,400 RPMs. When hooking up a 3-point implement, PTO-driven implement, if it's your first time, it may seem somewhat intimidating, but it's really not. And I'd like to give you the nickel tour of how to do it. So we're going to back the tractor up kind of close, and we're going to put the parking brake on, but leave it in neutral and leave it running. I've brought with me everything I need to do this project. The tractor, of course, has to have its top link in. I've got 3 pins, 1 for the top link connection, 2 for the lower link arms. I've got my motorized grease gun, my BFH, and my handy gel lube. First thing you want to do is, a lot of the tractors, this CK included, have a pivotable PTO shield, and they're sometimes tough, but raise that up. And take the dust cap off. Don't lose the dust cap. There's a cup holder, I just usually stick it in there. Take your motorized grease gun. Grease up the shaft. Believe me, it'll be a whole lot easier hooking that drive shaft up if you do that. Okay. You'll want to unlock and open up the stabilizers, whether it's a rotary type turnbuckle like this one, or if it's a drop pin type. Give them lots of flex so that when you lower it down, it's easy to catch down there. It's also an excellent time to grab some lubricant and put it on the threads. I really should have a piece of cardboard under here. Keep planet Earth cleaner. Also an excellent time, you'll need to loosen up the retaining bolt on the top link, and it's also an excellent time to lubricate that. All right, you get the idea. So, what I'm going to do first, before I put the drive shaft on, is I'm going to get the 3-point lower link arms connected. Now, you'll want to level this when we're all but done. I'll show you how to level the implement, because this one right here levels by adjusting it, and I hope the camera can show that these are out of level. I purposefully made them really out of level. You might as well get that in line, and that's why you need your spud wrench. Your spud wrench will help you loosen up that retaining nut. So you open that up, again spray some lube on there, and then by twisting this up or down, that is how you level your implement. So at least get it kind of close. It'll help you hooking it up. Okay, I'm not going to lock it back in place because that'll be later. Now, reach over and lower your arms down. And as you can see, perhaps you can see, I'm about, I don't know, well, I might be close. If it falls on the pin like that, you'll never get it loose, so just pick it up a bit and move it out, set it back down. There you go. All right, so I think I can pin this one, lower it just a little bit more, and I'm about a 1/4 inch off, so you could pull the tractor forward a 1/4 inch, or if you're on a level ground and you've got the strength for it, you could just move it a little bit. This is the other end of the spud wrench, and there's a ball swivel in here that gets stuck, especially when it's new because it's painted, or when it's old because it needs lubricant. But stick the end of the spud wrench in there, move it around, get it lubed up, remove that paint, and you'll save yourself a lot of grief. Okay. There's one. Pin it, and you're done on that side. And it's clipped, or it's pinned and clipped. Cool. I'm going to install the PTO shaft before the top link, just so top link doesn't get in my way. Now, the PTO shaft comes in two parts. It's telescopic, so it'll reach. Just pull it forward, and can you see this plunger? That's what's going to catch onto the spline of the tractor output. And when you take it off, that's the plunger you're going to push to take it off. I lubed it up. I got it to catch. Now with any luck, I'll just push it forward. And the plunger came up. The PTO is installed. This keeps this protective, this one and this one, keeps the protective cover, plastic cover, in place and not spinning. And it lessens the chance of getting hurt by getting your sleeve or your hair caught in the driveline. John Lechner showed me that you double it up, you stick it through this hole right here, and you clip it. As the drive shaft spins, this will catch, and it really does lessen the chance of getting something caught in there. Put the PTO protective lid back down. This is time for the BFH. Now it's time for the top link. It doesn't meet, so it needs to be extended. By the way, most PTO, pardon me, most top links do have grease fittings, which I'm going to hit right now. All right, so spin, 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 spin. That's pretty close. And it goes. Clip it. That is installed. What we need to do now is to adjust the stops side to side so it doesn't swing, and level it. What you want to make sure to do is to adjust the turnbuckles so that so it doesn't do this. So how do you do that? Well, use your eyeballs and you get a straight line, like from the dragger wheel through the drive line to the middle of the PTO output. You just kind of look at it. Yeah, that's about it. And since we had loosened up the lower stabilizers, it's now time to run the jam nut against them. Okay, you'll then take your spud wrench and adjust that, or tighten that jam nut on both sides. In the interest of time, I've taken so much of yours already, I am not going to tighten the jam nuts, but please tighten the jam nuts. If you don't, they will fall out and you'll run over them with the cutter and you'll never find them again. And the jam nuts on anything that's a turnbuckle like this need to be checked every day because they do loosen. There's a lot of vibration going on. All right, now I said there's two adjustments. That would be the side to side and the leveling of the implement. But there's one, level, but there's one more. That's the angle of attack. Do you want the implement to be lower in the back, lower in the front, right on dead even? And there's no right answer because depending on what you're doing with the implement, like a box scraper, you may want it more aggressive. You may want it to dig in the front, or you may just want to do the final dressing of your driveway and have it just very light with, just kind of going along like this. And that's adjusted with the top link. By turning the top link one way or the other, you'll actually change the angle of attack of the implement. Back end down, front end down, even. I want it right about here. So it's there, so I'm going to run this jam nut against it. La 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 la. And again, picture me locking that jam nut. Okay, as we said, the leveling from side to side is handled by this turnbuckle right here, and this is how it levels, by turning it either way. Now there's a lot of weight on it because it's up in the air, so you could do one of two things. You can use your spud wrench and stick it through and turn it, and that is actually changing the level. Or you could take the weight off of it by generally putting it on the ground, turning that, and when you get it where you like it, which that's level, you then swing down the jam nut. Did I mention to tighten the jam nuts every day? Really, really important. Okay, that's a fully installed 5-foot rotary cutter. You can tell I don't do this every day. You'll do this a lot quicker than I will with some practice. Now we'll talk about engaging the PTO, firing it up. When you engage the PTO to drive something like this cutter or a tiller, it's important that you start it at a low RPM, just barely above idle. And once it gets going, then run it all the way up to where it's supposed to be. On this tractor, it would be 2,400 RPMs. So I'm going to start up the tractor. My foot is on the clutch. This tractor has a manually engaged PTO, so I'm going to slide the PTO lever forward. And as I let the clutch out, it'll engage. And then spool it up. Now, when I put the clutch in and disengage the PTO, I want you to notice how long this still spins. The reason I'm bringing this up is obvious. You don't want any part of that while it's spooling down. And you'll know it when it stops, as you'll see. That was probably close to a minute. Keep that in mind. All right, so you've got the implement all attached and leveled, and it is, it's good to go. Well, one more thing. There's a little knob right here on the center hump. It's called an MLS valve. You don't have to remember that. But what that valve does, what that knob does, is it adjusts the speed of descent of the three-point implement. Some implements obviously weigh more than others, and so something very light, like a postal digger, you don't want to wait so long that you could do your taxes waiting for it to go down. Something heavier like this, you don't want it to slam the ground. So it's important to check to see what the speed of descent is. Now, you could just ever so gently lower the three-point control, millimeter by millimeter, and but that's not what's going to happen. You're going to be cutting, mowing, or tilling. You'll get to the end of your row, you'll pick up the implement, you'll turn, and you'll set it back down. It's not reasonable to think that you're going to act that slowly and that precisely to get it just to drift down. So that's what that valve's for. Now it's up. Let's put it down. Yeah, not cool. So it has the rabbit and the turtle. We need some more turtle. So spin it a while and try it. Nope, still a little too fast. Yeah, there's no science to this. It's just finding the sweet spot. Okay, right now, it's being held up. Which, by the way, if your three-point doesn't go down, it's because that got moved into the closed position. Now that it's closed and the implement is up, I can take some pressure off of it. Look at that. So, from the up position, now I shoved that lever all the way down as fast as I could. That is how you adjust the speed of descent. But what if the tractor doesn't start? At some point, you will jump on the tractor, turn the key, and you'll be met with silence. And when that happens, remember my acronym that I just came up with: calm. Remain calm. Chill, assess, look, and modify. First off, chill. It's okay, because we're going to get through this. Assess. What are the types of things that are required by this machine in order to start? Look around, and when you find out what is it not in the right setting, modify it. So, first off, if you turn the key and you get lights, that means you have battery power. You may not have enough battery power, but I doubt that's going to be it. It's going to be something else, especially on a new tractor. So you have it, but yet it won't start. Is the range selector in neutral? Make sure it's in neutral. Jiggle it around a little bit and try to start it. Is the clutch fully engaged? That's got to happen. The PTO lever or switch, is the PTO in neutral? If it's an SE, is the electric switch turned off? Tractor won't start with the PTO engaged. Again, if it's a lever type like this, jiggle it a little bit and try to start it. Is the brake engaged, either by parking brake or your foot? The brake, the clutch, so far we have the brake, the clutch, the transfer case, the PTO engagement, and we'll add to it the seat. The seat has to be compressed. All of those things have to happen and be in the right positions to start. If you bought a manual transmission, there's one more. The manual transmission has 2 brake levers, and you'll notice a little bar that goes between them. Old timers and some people nowadays, they like to be able to spin the tractor at a very small radius. If you were working in a really confined area, you can unlock those brakes, and while you're driving, you can hold one of the brakes to make a tighter turn, or if you're having to cut on a hill and you have to go side to side, you can slow down the downhill rear wheel a little bit by doing that, and it kind of helps with traction. But that bar has to be engaged. The brakes have to be locked together to start. So running through the gamut, the seat's compressed, the clutch is engaged, the brake is engaged, the transfer case is in neutral. If it's a manual transmission, the shift is in neutral. The PTO is disengaged. If it's an SE, the PTO switch is off. The brakes are locked together, and try it again. If that doesn't work, there's a main, and it's time to go to the owner's manual, because you'll need to see which of the couple of fuses that you'll need to check. They're big yellow ones, and they're slow blow fuses. Generally speaking, they control the ignition and a couple other things, but the main ignition system for the tractor is checked there. Then and only then would I consider jump starting the tractor, because I don't necessarily believe that it has a dead battery unless the battery is old, or if you've had a history 10 years from now of a battery drain. Sometimes folks add auxiliary lighting or whatever, and sometimes for whatever reason there will be a drain on the battery, a slow drain, and a battery could be dead, and that's time to try jump starting it. Use the owner's manual for guide there, but if you bought your kit that I suggested, you have already got that little electronic jump starter. But those are the things to check if your tractor doesn't start. That was a heck of a long video. I appreciate you hanging in there with me. I hope that the hour plus that you spent watching this video will save you at least that much time and aggravation becoming familiar with your new tractor. We want you happy. If you're not happy, we want to hear about it. But in order to be happy, the tractor needs to perform well, and you need to be comfortable with it. We want your future business. We want you to recommend us to your friends and relatives. We want to sell you a zero turn or a side-by-side. And we've got, probably close to 100 people in our Triple Crown Club, and that's folks that have a tractor, a mower, and a side-by-side. And that's what we want. And it takes you to be satisfied to do that. As I said, we want to know about it if you're not. And if you have questions, refer to the owner's manual. And if that doesn't clear it up, by all means call us. Whether you bought the tractor from us or not, we want you to be comfortable with the machine. So don't hesitate. Give us a call, 615-956-0334. My name's Mike Schramke with Larry Stove Sand Equipment. Welcome to the pack.